Traders, welcome back to day 16 of the Master Your Trading Mindset movement. For those of you checking in for the first time, we do a little bit of a recap of what this movement's all about. Every day for 30 days in December, I'm doing a video a day. Now these videos are directly made to help each and every single one of you master your trading mindset. The reason I'm doing this is because everybody knows and everybody says how important trading mindset and trading psychology is. It's 90% of the mental game in your success as a trader. Yet, I'm afraid most traders do not put the time, energy, and effort necessary into mastering their trading mindset. So I wanted to do this series as a little bit of accountability, give you great insights and cutting-edge education on what to actually focus on to help master your trading mindset. Throughout these 30 days, I'm giving you education, I'm giving you tools, I'm giving you insights, I'm giving you mind-expanding questions to help each and every single one of you go into 2023 to ensure you have the most successful year yet, not only in your trading, but also in your life in general. Watching these lectures will help lower the emotional volatilities in your trading, which will help increase and improve decision-making, help improve consistency in your results, and ultimately help a lot of you achieve goals like getting funded, scaling funded, going full-time, leveling up your life in many different ways. Now, I'm incredibly excited for day 16. We're talking all about fear. Now, fear is one of the biggest reasons why traders don't end up getting consistent in their results. There are actually two reasons. Two of the most potent emotions, we could say, in trading come down to fear and greed. Warren Buffett famously said, don't expect to manage your money unless you can manage your emotions. He talks a lot about fear and greed and how it runs the mass psychology and ultimately kills investors' profits and kills traders' ability to make consistent profits into the future. Now, this is part of, I guess, a mini-series within the movement. Yesterday, day 15, we talked about emotions 101. I gave you a general overview of what emotions are. I told you that emotions aren't bad. They're not something you want to get rid of. Rather, they're there to give you feedback. They're there to give you guidance, and it's important to interpret these correctly. If you haven't already seen day 15, go back and check that out before you watch this one. Because what we're going to do over today and the next few days is we're going to break down each important emotion specifically. We're going to talk about fear today. In the preceding days, we're going to talk about greed. We're going to talk about shame and guilt. We're going to talk about altruism, narcissism. We're going to talk about pride. And I'm going to be showing you where these things come from and how you can get a deeper understanding of what's actually happening in your psychology. And ultimately, on a deeper level, I'm going to show you how you can manage and mitigate these emotional volatilities, understand their feedback, understand what they're telling you, and then put things in place to ensure you've managed them. Now, these series are going to give you insights into what I talk about, especially in week 5 in my 12-week program. If you resonate with these emotions masterclass, the 12-week program is going to give you the proper tools, step-by-step walkthrough. I'm going to hold your hand in that program to actually ensure you go back and address what needs to be addressed. So if you resonate with these lectures, make sure you check out the free trial to the 12-week program. That's a mind blower. But I'm going to stop talking. We're going to get into the lecture. If you like the lectures, make sure you share them with friends. You like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Share them on your social media. That helps me grow. That helps the movement get out. But without further ado, let's get into it. We're going to talk specifically today about how you can manage fear to help improve your results. Now, the problem we're addressing here, well, fear is a survival response. It's necessary and it's essential for survival. And we have to understand that for 99.9% of you, if you're watching this, if you have internet connection, if you have access to YouTube, if you have the time to sit down and go through these lectures, and if you're on a journey, an entrepreneurial journey, or you're becoming a trader, chances are what I'm about to say is relevant to you. Chances are day to day, you do not have the same life-threatening situations that our ancestors thousands of years ago had. Chances are when you walk outside your apartment or your house, you're not going to be attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Chances are you have food readily available for you, right? So these survival responses or these survival threats probably don't apply to you 99.9% of the time. You have to understand thousands of years ago, it was completely different. Our ancestors had life-threatening situations day to day, each moment in the day where fear was a necessary response to get cortisol and adrenaline up, kick that individual into a fight or flight response so they could keep themselves alive. Now, human nature never gets rid of things. It only builds new layers on top of. So we have those same survival responses hardwired within us, but we don't have the same threats day to day. Now, if we're in the market and we take a loss, that same survival response can fire just as if our ancestor had a saber-toothed tiger in front of them. So we need to learn how to manage these survival responses that are ingrained within us to ensure that we can get back to our processes and we can make the most rational decisions as a trader. And we don't have these survival responses firing when we take losses, but we truly understand on a deep level that losses are part of the probability model. They're essential for our consistent profitability into the future. So we're going to be breaking down fear on a deeper level. I'm going to be showing you why it's there and how you can manage it. It's not a bad thing, just like we talked about with emotion. It's not a bad thing, but we have to learn to manage this survival response if we want to thrive as traders. Now, human beings had a very good reason to be scared. Like I mentioned, thousands of years ago, if a saber-toothed tiger was in front of them, that's a good reason to be scared, right? But this same response isn't as useful when we take a loss as a trader. Fear isn't a great strategy, and running and avoiding and trying to avoid things in the market isn't a strategy. The way we get consistent profits is by consistently executing on our edge, on our trading plan. But we can't consistently execute on our edge if we're afraid of the next outcome, the next position, because ultimately we're going to then make an outcome-based decision that takes us away from our plan. So fear was necessary to get the fight or flight response, adrenaline, cortisol, out of the internal parts of your body to the outskirts of your body, your muscles, etc., to put you in a fired up state. So if you perceived yourself able to fight the threat in front of you, you would fight. But if you perceived that threat to overpower you, you would flight, you would run. So this was a very important survival response to keep our ancestors alive, all right? But like I mentioned, we have the same hardwired response, survival response, but rarely face life-threatening situations day to day. And it's time to now learn how to manage this response so that you can build consistent profitability as a trader. We're here to thrive, not survive. Chances are, as Maslow talked about, a lot of those initial stages of development, and Kohlberg discussed, those initial needs for food, shelter, water, those initial stages of development, a lot of us have transcended. A lot of them are just taken care of for us. So we're playing at higher levels now where we need to learn to transcend the amygdala-driven animal response that was necessary for survival. But we day to day, we're learning how to self-actualize. We're learning how to thrive now. We're learning how to set goals, plan, and then follow through with strategic action, which is, if you watch my lectures, if you watch this series, if you've been through the 12-week program, you know that's what it's all about. Transcending those levels, getting to a state of self-actualization where you can learn to have consistent profitability in your trading. You can learn to scale and do amazing things in all areas of life. Okay, now I'm going to give you a little bit of a graphic example in this one. I'm excited for this. So I want you to think of this next little chart here as your mind. This is your Cartesian plane of your mind, as one of my teachers taught me. And the way we're going to plot this is very simple. You've got positive at the top, negative at the bottom, future on the right, or imagination, future imagination, or past memory on the left. Now, the center point here is truth. It's presence. It's being completely present, all right? And when we go off to the left, we have a past memory that we're reliving. And when we go off to the right, we have a future imagination that we're projecting. The center line down the middle, this is a mirror. So the past mirrors forward into the future. It's really important to know. On top of that, we have, which we're going to get to in a second, the conscious and unconscious split. That's the x-axis. So when we're conscious of the negative, we're unconscious of the positive. When we're conscious of the positive, we're unconscious of the negative. Remember how I said that the emotion is the feedback mechanism making us aware that we have an incomplete awareness? So whenever we have an emotion, we're only aware of one side of the picture. We're either aware of the negative or we're aware of the positive. In either case, we're unaware of the other side of it, okay? Now you can see fear down the bottom right here, in the bottom right quadrant. And it's an arrow pointing towards us, the present moment, truth, right? Now, all fear is the perception that at some point in the future, bottom right is future, in our imagination, with our imagination, we're creating this, that we're going to experience in our perception something that is going to challenge us more than support us. It's going to be more negative than positive. It's going to be more painful than pleasureful. It's going to be more drawback than benefit. That's the imagination. That's what we perceive is going to happen in the future, and we're going to label that a fear. So a fear is a perception that sometime in the future we're going to experience this negative event in the future. Now, all fears, there's a couple dynamics that are happening here that I want to unpack for the particular fear. Like we mentioned, we have a mirror of the past to the future. So a fear is a very specific thing. You will never have a fear of the unknown. That's not true. You have fear of the specific idea or specific content that you have in your mind. There's no such thing as the fear of the unknown. Don't let yourself believe that. There's a very specific fear about what you have in your mind, the content you have in your mind at that particular point in time. Now that very specific content would be mirrored from a previous past resentment. See down the bottom left here how we have the perception that in the past we had an event that was more negative than positive, more challenging than supportive, more painful than pleasureful. So if we have a logged resentment in the past of maybe we were trading a particular pair and we took a very painful loss, and in our mind that logged as a resentment, right? That resentment is going to mirror forward into a future fear. And we're going to have a fear of that happening again. And we may not even know why. We may not even know why consciously we're having a fear response and avoidance mechanism. But because in our memory, subconscious mind, we have a logged resentment that we've left unaddressed, that's mirroring forward into a future fear. Okay, this is what you've heard me talk about in my previous lectures, that sometimes we need to go in there and address the past subconsciously stored baggage, because if we don't, it's going to run us in the future. Okay, this is why. So that's one dynamic that's going on. A future fear is a mirror of a resentment in the past. And you may have a fear of the future, of something very specific happening in the future. And what you better do is you better identify a previous experience, a memory, a resentment that's logged in the past that is now being mirrored into the future. And you can go back to that moment in the past. You can ask yourself, get present in that moment. You can go and ask yourself, because that resentment there is the perception that all drawback, no benefit. Go back and ask, what was the benefit of that? What did I gain from that? How did that serve me? How did that help me grow? And when you start to stack benefits to that previous resentment, and you start to address that, and you bring it back to what it actually was, truth, then the future fear starts to dampen as well, and you start to address that as well. So that's why in the 12-week program, I take traders through a very particular process to help them go back and address the most painful losses they've had in the past, and to actually go in there and address it and neutralize it. So that's not running their trading decisions in the future. But what's running their trading decisions in the future is a process-based execution of their trading plan. And traders get that confused. They have so much baggage in the past that actually stops them from executing on their trading plan currently. And you need to go in and address that. Now, the other thing that can be driving a fear in the future, remember, if you're consciously aware of the fear, you're unconscious of the fantasy that you're addicted to. So if you have a fear of losing, it's because you're addicted to another fantasy of winning in that moment simultaneously. So this is why you hear me talk a lot about make sure you're aware of your expectations before you get into a position. Because if you have an expectation or a fantasy of this trade being a pleasurable win, or you getting that funded account, then guess what? Simultaneously, you're going to create a fear of losing that, and that's where the fear is coming from as well. So there are really two dynamics that we like to address when we talk about fear of losing. The first one is addressing the resentments of the past that are mirroring forward into the future fear. The other one is addressing the addiction to the fantasy of winning, and learning to find the drawbacks in that so that you can neutralize the future fear. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And again, we talk about this in a lot more detail in the 12-week program. I break it down and I show you all 8 of the emotional volatilities that could be spiraling in your mind. This is just 3 of them. But these are 3 very important ones to be aware of. So what I'm going to show you now is how can we actually go in there and manage that particular fear. Now that you know, so you know now that fear could either be derived from a previous resentment logged in your subconscious mind, or it could be from the addiction to the opposite in the present moment. You could be addicted to winning and you really want to win. Therefore, that creates the simultaneous fear of not getting that. Pairs of opposites in your mind, you have to be aware of these. This is all about self-awareness. And I know personally when I go through my journey, and I'm trading or I'm going through life and, oh, there's a fear. Great, it's a feedback. All right, what is it making me aware of? Well, okay, let me go. Have I had an experience in the past that's been very painful that's reminding me, this future fear is reminding me of this? Okay, yes, I have. Let me log that. Let me be aware of that. Let me go back and address that. And also, currently, am I addicted to the opposite, the positive? And okay, yep, there's an addiction there. There's a fantasy there in my mind, an expectation that's actually driving the fear as well. So once you have a deep awareness of this, you can very specifically identify and address the charges in your mind. And this is what self-awareness is. And each and every single one of my students who go through the 12-week program understand everything that's going on in their mind, and they know how to address it. It's very powerful, not only in your trading, but in your life in general. Anyway, I'm rambling now, let's move on. The solution here, there are 3 key tools to manage fear, now that we have an awareness of what it actually is. The first one is manage your expectations and fantasies on the outcome. That's the top right one. That could be driving if you're conscious of the fear, you're unconscious of the fantasy. So you need to use the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool in the description. Download that free tool. That's why it's so important to go in there and make sure you're aware of all the fantasies, all the expectations and the outcome that you have. Put those on the tool, ground those before you get into the position so you can make a process-based decision. The next thing here is you need to have a clear process-based trading plan, step by step. What this does is it helps override irrational decision making. If you have a clear trading plan there and you're running step by step, you help manage that emotional decision making, you help manage that fear. It won't take care of all of it, it's not the root cause, but it will help you when trading to help manage the emotional volatilities. You have something to rely on, you have something to lean on. So make sure you go in there and manage your expectations, ground the fantasies and the outcome using the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool. Make sure you have a clear process-based trading plan that's step by step, completely outlined, and you know exactly how you're executing, so you can take the pressure off yourself to have to make decisions in the moment, but you already know you have a plan that you execute on it. And the last one here is you need to go in and address and neutralize the subconsciously stored baggage of your most painful losses in the past and most pleasurable wins of the past. You need to learn to see the other side of those events, and you need to learn how to ground those and see the full, complete picture there, and expand your awareness on those particular events, because then what that does is it frees you up in the future from fear and greed. Guarantee you, fear and greed in the future comes from previous pleasurable and painful experiences you've had as a trader, and it's both fear and greed that are going to take you away from executing your trading plan and building consistent profitability. So a lot of times when I have traders come through the 12-week program and we do that particular process and they address their most painful losses, the most pleasurable wins, and they expand their awareness of those events, and they realize they're just events, they had extreme biases on those events, then they free themselves up from the strings of fear and greed in the future. The strong strings, and they have more self-control, they have more patience, they have more discipline, they're more process-based, they're no longer completely addicted to the outcome of winning, so they're no longer resenting losing when it happens in the probability model. They're more balanced, they're more poised, they're more present, they're more powerful as traders. And that's ultimately what I promote. That's what I help my traders get to. And I hope that that's making sense and I'm communicating that well to you guys and girls now. Okay? Now, the ideal mindset you're going into positions with, truly embody process-based thinking, because when you truly embody process-based thinking, you don't have fear. Because when you truly embody process-based thinking, you've accounted for both outcomes. You're aware that both outcomes can happen. Therefore, you're not addicted one way and you're not fearful the other way, but you're aware of both outcomes, you've embraced both outcomes, and now you're just making a process-based decision. So you can truly transcend fear if you learn to truly embody process-based thinking. So implementing the solutions will help manage, quiet down the monkey, the fear, and put the human in charge, the process-based, the trading plan. So this is ultimately the ideal mindset you're going into positions with. I don't care if the next position, the next individual position, the next trade is a win or a loss. Okay, I'm not addicted to winning. I'm not fantasizing about the win, therefore I'm not fearing the loss. I'm taking the trade because it aligns with my trading plan. I know I have an edge over a larger sample space. Now you can only get to that if you've addressed the most painful losses in the past, the most pleasurable wins in the past. You've learned to see the other side of them. You've transcended the judgment on winning and losing. And maybe you also have resentments and infatuations that go deeper than your trading. You may have things in childhood. You may have things in your sporting. I know when I went and addressed majority of the main things, a lot of things came up for me in sport and in school as well, in my studies, where I perceived to have lost very important experiences or very important games when I was an athlete, or I perceived to have failed on particular exams or tests when I was a student. And these things, now when I was trading in as a trader and I took a loss, guess what? All this pain came up from those previous experiences. I didn't even know why I was reacting so painfully. So you may need to go deeper than that, and we talk about that in detail in the 12-week program. So if you resonate with this, make sure you check out the free 7-day trial for that. But in this, I wanted to give you an awareness of where the fear comes from, where the fear response is derived from, and how it's not just some random thing. People are going to be saying that it's random, fear of the unknown, it just happens. No, don't listen to those people. All it tells me is they just don't understand the brain on a deeper level. Okay, it's a very specific moment of perception, a resentment of the past, it's being mirrored forward into a future fear, or both. It could be both fantasy and resentment, or it's a very specific addiction to a positive outcome, some sort of fantasy that's driving that fear. So don't listen to people out there who say that it's random. It's not random. Guarantee that. Okay, I hope I think I got my message across. So this is all what it's all about. Ultimately, you want to get to the ideal, which is truly embodying process-based thinking. Now, does this mean that you'll never be fearful in your life or in your trading? No, it's an ongoing thing. You're going to continue to have to work at the charges or judgments you experience as a trader, and you're going to continually have to have self-awareness using the Bulletproof Your Mindset tool to embrace process-based thinking. It's an ongoing journey, but it's a worthwhile journey to work towards, because now you're going to have more self-regulation as a trader. You're going to have processes and tools in place. And this is what I found with myself and with my students. As you continue to scale up and you're trading more and more capital and you're taking on more risk, you feel more comfortable doing so. You feel more worthy of doing so because you have the processes, you have the tools, you have the frameworks in place and the mental models to feel comfortable to do so. So if you do experience greater volatilities and emotions, you have the confidence that I have the tools, I have the processes that will allow me to scale up successfully and manage any emotional volatilities that come my way. Okay, now I'm rambling, let's move on. In summary, fear is necessary for survival, but it's not necessary for thrival. It needs to be managed if you want to thrive. Fear will keep you in survival. Managing it, transcending it, doing what I talked about in this particular lecture, joining the 12-week program, seeing what that's all about, will help you transcend the stages of development, will help you get to a stage of self-actualization so you can thrive. You can be process-based, you can be an executive in your thinking. You want to manage the fantasy and address the subconsciously stored resentments. Those are two key insights for managing fear. Okay, hope this was insightful. You learnt one or two things. Again, don't listen to the people who say there's the fear of the unknown. Don't buy into that. All that shows me is they don't have accountability to actually go in there and find what's going on and address it. Hold yourself to a higher standard than other individuals out there. Go in and address this stuff. You'll free yourself up to make process-based decisions and be the best trader you can possibly be. If you resonate with this, make sure you check out the free 7-day trial to the 12-week program. If you resonate with this, share it with your friends, share it with your trading community, share it on your social media. Let's get this movement out there. Keep up the great work. I look forward to seeing the results you get from this, and having implemented all these things in December 2022, you're going to be in the best possible position to have the most successful 2023, manage your psychology and scale up in your trading. Anyway, I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow where we talk about the next emotion. Speak soon.